associate head coach and the head coach in waiting of the Aztecs. I was told these guys had some ride home yesterday filled with all sorts of planes and trains and automobiles and who knows what else. Dutch, good to talk to you. Thank you very much for a few minutes.
Great to be back, Darren.
I appreciate it. Did you guys have an interesting ride home? Is that what I heard?
It was like insult to injury. We got beaten. It took us like 11 hours to get back on a chartered flight. So it was a long night for everybody.
I would think so. You know, Coach, I know these types of interviews are never easy, so we appreciate you doing it. But, man, I guess I'll ask, that's nothing you ever get used to in life, is it?
No, well, you're all geared up and you're going full speed, and then the season ends abruptly. It's over in a heartbeat. And so you go from prepping and film and practice and everything into basketball, and then as soon as that last game's over, it's all done. The tape is done, the practice is done, the season's done, and careers are over. And so it's always hard when it ends so abruptly.
What was it like in the locker room afterwards, particularly since so much was made about the seniors on the team and the players that aren't coming back next year?
Darren, it's a lot of tears. It's guys that, it's in a blink of an eye, their careers are over. And you come in as a freshman and you think, wow, is this ever going to end? This is such a long season. And then by the time you play your senior game, your last game in the NCAA tournament, you lose, and you're like, where did those 4 years go? Well, for a guy like Deshaun Stevens, where did those 2 years go? And, all the emotions are built up from a long career and then a tough loss, and a lot of tears, a lot of family atmosphere at the end when you hug it out and you just tell each other how much you meant to each other during that career and season.
We're talking to Brian Dutcher at San Diego Sports Leader, the Mighty 1090. Coach, if there's one thing that you would point out from the game itself, one area where Florida Gulf Coast, did they take you by surprise? Were they better than you thought they were? Did they execute better? And why did they have so much success in the second half of that game?
Well, the key to the game defensively was limit transition baskets. The first half, we did a pretty good job of it. They didn't really get out and run us a whole lot the first half. We only had 5 turnovers. And we limited their fast breaks, and we ended the half up 1 in a score that we liked and could have been up more, but weren't. And then the second half, we had, I believe, 12 turnovers that led to a ton of fast break baskets. And once they get running, they're at their best, and it got away from us. And they really put it on us the second half.
It felt like just watching from the couch. I mean, it was a feeling watching from a San Diego State perspective. You kind of felt like there was nothing you could do to stop Florida Gulf Coast. What did it feel like on the bench when they're going on their run and they have all those baskets in transition and you guys seem to be missing shot after shot after shot?
Yeah, that's the key. I mean, the only way to stem a tide is to get a basket of your own or get to the foul line. And, we're really not an inside team. We throw it in there. We try to attack off the dribble some to get it into the paint. But this team has seen this year more than ever to rely on the jump shot. It's just the nature of the way we played this year based on personnel. And we had a lot of good looks, and our best player, Chase Tapley, had a lot of them. And, he just couldn't get them to fall. And if your best players are getting the looks, they're getting the shots, when it all comes down to it, your best players either deliver or they don't. It had nothing to do with want. Chase wanted to make those. We had open looks. He's made them in the past. When he has, we won, and he just had some looks that wouldn't go down for him. And that's James Rayhound also. Jamal had looks, and the guys that carry the load for us just couldn't convert them.
I don't know if this was a big deal to you, but I brought it up during the show yesterday. I would consider Sherwood Brown to be their best player. And, again, this is recent information now because I didn't know a lot about that program 2 days ago. Do you consider him to be the best player on that team? And do you feel like maybe you should have capitalized a little more with him being in foul trouble?
We tried to go at him because as soon as he picked up the first foul, we started going to the basket. He offered no resistance.
None.
He did not want a foul, so he just opened the gates and let us go. But obviously, as the game went on, he felt he had enough fouls to play the entire game. He tightened his defense up, and he's a very good player. Their most important player is Comer, the point guard, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the one that creates all the problems. I thought we did a decent job on him, but he had 14 assists. I think a lot of those were on the break. But what they try to do, Darren, they try to ball screen or get you to put 2 on him to help, and he's such a good passer. That's what he does. So we switched ball screens. I thought our game plan was solid. We tried not to keep 2 on him at any time, keep one guy on him so he couldn't pass the ball. He wasn't trying to score. He was trying to find people. He was still able to get some. I think most of those assists were on the break.
You know, when they beat Georgetown on Friday night, and I totally understand this. I mean, I understand why the media would say this, why I would say this. I understand why the fans would say this, because they're a 15 seed, and all you have to do is look at their resume, and, they lose to schools that people had never heard of. When you find out that they beat Georgetown on Friday night, how are you feeling about that at the time? I mean, is it a nervous thing or is it an excited thing? Because I think the majority of people would look at that and think, that's kind of a break for the Aztecs.
Yeah, well, we were so focused on our game. Once we won, then we put all our attention to the game we played. And I watched the Georgetown game, and I just thought that Florida State really competed harder. And they built that lead like they did against us, but they built it in the first half and early in the second against Georgetown, and Georgetown fought back. But obviously they're a very good team. And, you look at some of their losses during the year, but you also say, hey, they beat Mercer twice, and Mercer's gone ahead and beat Tennessee and Alabama and people like that. And so there are good teams in that conference, and they play good basketball everywhere right now. That's the whole point of the tournament. Wichita State is still in. LaSalle is still in. LaSalle reminds me of VCU a couple of years ago when VCU came from the play-in game to the Final Four. And so it's all who's playing the best at this time of the year. And right now, it seems to me that Florida Gulf Coast is playing their best basketball right now.
Any cause for concern as it relates to the conference?
As far as what, our conference?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'd like to have a better showing. I was surprised that New Mexico got knocked out so early. They were as fine a team as this conference has seen in a long time. They had inside play, they had outside play, great shooters, and it's just a matchup. They ran into a team that had a power forward, undersized, that could step out and make threes, and all of a sudden your advantage, strength on the inside, is a weakness when Harvard's power forward hit 5 threes against them. And then you look at Gonzaga, they play Wichita State, and Wichita State is not a great three-point shooting team, but I think they made 12 or 16 against Gonzaga. And so, this is not a series. This is not a best-of-7. And that's what makes the NCAA tournament so great, that if you can get it together for one game or one moment, you can advance. And right now, Gulf Coast has got their game together. They're playing confident, they're playing well, and they're playing on, which is amazing. And we wish it was us.
What do you think Jamal Franklin's future is?
I think Jamal has great choices both ways. I think that the NBA has interest in him. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm sure he'll gauge what that interest is. And if he's got a chance to be a first-round draft choice, I think he'll give it serious consideration. So, and after all, I had this talk about Kawhi when he left. When these kids go to the NBA, it does nothing but help our program. Because not only do kids want to win, which we've done, but they want to win and know that they're going to a place where they can make it to the NBA from. And with Kawhi in the NBA and Malcolm Thomas is currently with the Bulls, we're placing players in the NBA. And these recruits that we talk to, they want to know that they can get to the NBA from San Diego State. And so the more players we're able to help get there, it helps the program as a whole.
Do you have an opinion, though, about whether or not you think he's ready to go? I mean, because you've had plenty of underclassmen go, going back to the days at Michigan. You've had a couple go here. It's worked out for one. It hasn't worked out for another at San Diego State. I mean, does he fit the profile, just in your own opinion, knowing, that your game is primarily the college game here? Does he fit the profile of a player who you think could jump at this point in his life?
I think the NBA is a lot like college basketball. We sit and look at players and we say, in high school kids, we look at the high school kids and say, here's where he's at now, but with work, I close my eyes, he puts the work in, here's where I think he'll be in 2 years. I think the NBA is the same way. They look at Jamal, they see all the positives he has, but they see great potential. And they say, well, maybe he's not where we need him now, but we bring him in, and in 2 years he'll be exactly what we need. And so the finished product is not always what they take. That's why for so many years the NBA was drafting high school kids. And you can't tell me those high school kids right away you're looking and saying this is an NBA player. They're saying in a year or two this could be an NBA player. So I think they see that kind of potential in Jamal. How quick he gets there is anybody's guess. But if it's hard work to get you there, he'll be there in a hurry because we have no harder worker than Jamal Franklin in the program.
Coach, if you could, let's wrap up here with a preview of 2013-2014. I know it's not a finished product yet, but you do have some players coming in. What would you be most excited about from San Diego State's perspective about the 2013-2014 basketball season?
I think we've got solid returning players, which you need to be good. Tex Thames, J.J. O'Brien. We've got players that didn't get an opportunity that we think are good enough in Dwayne Polee, James Johnson, freshmen like Skylar Spencer and Matt Shrigley. Matt obviously redshirted. We've got newcomers that we've added that we recruited from some of the top colleges in the country. We got them over from a number of Pac-12 schools that we're excited to add. And so I think the future continues to be bright for San Diego State University. We've raised expectations, and that's what we want to do. That's where we want expectations, that our fan base is disappointed that we're not in the Sweet 16. We're disappointed we're not in the Sweet 16. But if our goal is to be in a Final Four someday, we have to have those kind of expectations. And we have to sell those to the kids we're recruiting. So I would say the state of Aztec basketball is solid and improving.
Coach, thank you very much, not just for today, but all season long. You were good enough to join us on a week-in, week-out basis. I hope you enjoyed it half as much as we did. Thank you for the time.
Thanks, Darren.
Brian Dutcher, Associate Head Coach, the head coach in waiting with